On today's Question of Faith, what did the Pope say to our Cleveland Seminary community? Hey everybody, this is Question of Faith. I am Mike Hayes. I'm the Director of Young Adult Ministry in Diocese of Cleveland.
And I'm Father Damian and Fr Joe, the Vicar for Evangelization.
I am Father Joe Koopman. I'm Vice-Rector of St. Mary's Seminary and also Professor of Moral Theology.
And apparently a really good translator.
Well, it was the best they had, So it's been a long time since I've been in Rome. I left about 14 years ago, but I still remembered some of my Italian, which came in helpful. So
yeah, so you sort of served as the main translator for the trip. Tell us a little bit about the trip that you took and that the seminary.
Yeah, sure. It was something we've been planning for at least a year and a half, and we tend to take trips usually like every 5 years. It gives our seminarians at least one opportunity during their times of study to be able to make a pilgrimage to Rome, and so. This is the 175th anniversary, a little bit more of an important pilgrimage time with 175 years of the anniversary of our seminary to go with the bishops to the Eternal City.
So in 1999, Father Joe and I, when we celebrated 150 years of St. Mary's Seminary, went over to Rome and had an audience with John Paul II. So now our major seminary, which is 175 years old, 1 year older, people, than the North American College. Just saying that.
Point it out.
So Cleveland's seminary is older than Rome's American College. Was celebrating 175 years, and so Father Joe helped organize this pilgrimage over, and you got to meet the Holy Father.
We did, and we actually, back for our 150th, Father Damian was mentioning, we got to meet John Paul II also, and it was a life-changing experience. And I think part of the reason why we continue to do these trips is, part of our formation is not just simply classroom or field ed. It's also having guys immersed in culture and everything that's Catholic. And I can say that my trip, and probably Father Damian would agree, was life-changing to actually meet John Paul II, to join the seminary in a prayerful pilgrimage. And we were equally as blessed this year with our 175th trip. It was just an awesome experience. It was great because the majority of the guys, vast majority, had never been to Rome. A lot of our guys have never been to Europe, and actually we had a good amount that never been on a plane before.
Yeah, someone said that to me the other day. I was astounded. I was like, they've never been on a plane,
And a 9-hour trip is kind of a tough baptism by fire when it comes to travel. So
I might not ever take another plane.
We were packed. We were praying hard. On the way home, we had 2 bishops and 70 seminarians and faculty. If that plane went down,
the future of the diocese is in peril. Yeah.
So we were a little nervous. We knew the Lord would take care of us.
So you landed on a Friday morning, correct? Mm-hmm. And then this papal audience was on a Monday.
You got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Monday.
So take us through that morning. How early did you have to be at the Vatican? What were you all wearing? What were you thinking? Tell us the story.
Yeah. It was Monday. It was originally scheduled to be at 11:30. They changed the time. But luckily, I was waiting for another phone call from someone in the Secretary of State regarding where I needed to take the bishops. It was a different area than the group. And so luckily, I got the phone call right before Mass. And after that phone call, I got another phone call from the prefect of the papal household saying the time had changed by a half hour. So I had to run up to the chapel, and as soon as Mass is over, tell everyone to book it. We had to really get to the bronze doors. If you're familiar with the Vatican city-state in St. Peter's, there's often a queue to get in. Luckily, there wasn't too long of a line, but still it took a while to get through, but we had to be there by, again, a half hour early. And so everyone got through, and then at the bronze doors, and then they let the group in. It's an impressive way. It's the ancient diplomatic door where the Pope has always greeted diplomats, or the Swiss Guard in this case. And so the letter was printed. We all ready. Father Lakewood, our rector, led the group in. And Father Damian remembers this. It's an impressive stairwell that goes up. It has an optical illusion because the Vatican's not big. It narrows optically, so it's almost like a false view that looks much bigger than it is. But it's still a lot of steps, all marble. And I was actually with the bishops. We went up a different way. But it was cool because we were in the hall called the Sala Clementina, where the Holy Father had set up chairs for us. And the stairwell leads right into the hall. And it was a really great moment to be standing there and seeing our whole group of seminarians come up. And the look on their eyes, because the Sala Clementina is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's the same place.
I was going to say, is that the same place we met John Paul II?
Same place.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's full of marble. It's very beautiful. And so just to see the guys come up, our seminarians come up, and just the excitement that was there, it's...
Also, you say the seminarians, but it wasn't just the seminarians. So other faculty came and a couple parents were part of the pilgrimage group, right? There were 70 of you?
Yeah, there were 70 of us, and that included, right, we actually had secretaries. We had a lot of our faculty came, which was great. And actually, we had a really good showing of the priests here. I think almost all the priests came from the seminary, so there were a lot of us. And, of course, 2 bishops. We were blessed to have both Bishop Malesic and Bishop Woost, be part of it.
And although this was a celebration of St. Mary's Seminary, which is the graduates' seminary, the Theologate, 175 years, you did take the Borromeo juniors and seniors, which is a nice recruiting move, too.
Yeah,
So.
No, it totally is. And I know those guys had a great time, too, to have the Borromeo guys join us. And, we were just finished renovations, so we've all been kind of living together here, crammed for the last year and a half or 2 years. But it's been a great community, and, obviously all the guys relate well with each other, Borromeo and St. Mary's. So it was great to have the Borromeo guys with us. So, we had to wait maybe, I would say, 15 minutes before the Holy Father greeted us. The doors open, he came in, and of course all of us stood out.
Right. Were you sitting when he came in, or were you standing? And what's protocol? Did they give you any instructions? Do this, don't do this?
Yeah, they said, okay, so they did say that the Pope had an address for us after Bishop Malesic actually wrote an address and addressed the Holy Father, so we knew that was coming. They said the Pope had his own address to us, and they passed out his address, luckily translated into English. Now, he did depart a little bit from it, so that's where it was lucky that few of us knew Italian to kind of fill the group in on what he said. He was pretty emphatic about some points, which is interesting. Tutti, yeah, the tutti. And also, he did say that the bishop's a good talker, or he speaks well. You could interpret it either way. Right. But it was like a funny, because Bishop Malesic was quite eloquent and in welcoming and introducing the group to the Holy Father. So we were actually seated. It was a different protocol, and he sat in a chair, and we were all facing him. They had just enough seats for all of us, and so we all filed in. And we're sitting there until he came in. As soon as he came in, we immediately all stood and we applauded. Directions, the Holy Father, as you probably know, does not like to have his ring kissed. And so we were told, do not attempt to kiss the Pope's ring just because he doesn't like it. So the guys listened to those instructions. But the great part was everyone was able to come up and actually shake his hand. So I think all the guys knew at that point that we'd all be able to have a private moment. And most of our guys did say some things to the Holy Father, so which was great. So to hear the message. He sometimes will do addresses, but usually it's a very quick. He was there almost over a half hour with us, and his address was actually surprisingly long. But it was a great address. He kind of went off the cuff at times. And Father Damian has mentioned it was really kind of similar to the synodal message of telling us to listen, to walk together, and to witness were the 3 points he mentioned. But the importance for us to listen, to be present to people, the walking together to be, and this is where he said the tutti, which means all. He said we have to walk with everyone, he said. He said even those that differ with us in terms of our thoughts. He said sick or healthy, rich or poor, everyone. That priests and seminarians are called to walk with everyone, no exceptions. And then the importance of witness. And it was really a great priestly message to our guys of encouragement. So it was really a great address by our Holy Father. So, and then right after the address, we all went up individually, beginning with Bishop Malesic, then Bishop Woost, and the rest of us. So
now you brought your mother there.
I did, yeah.
And so tell us what that was like and how the Holy Father responded to Mary Ann Koopman.
Yeah, it was funny. My mom's comment was, priests love moms. Or that's what kind of what my mom's reaction was. So I introduced myself, and I'm a big guy, and my mom's little.
He's 6'6".
So my mom is little. She's tiny. So to cut to the chase, just in case the Pope would said something to me, I figure I'd be proactive. So I introduced myself, who I was. I introduced my mom, and I said in Italian, I go, it's a little mom. And then I stood up straight. I was bent over. I stood up straight, and a big son, a grande figlio. To which point he looked terrified. And so I have it. My picture that I bought isn't the ones where we're all smiling. It's the one where the Pope looks, terrified. It's a funny picture. So, But he kept on asking my mom for prayers. That was what she said, please pray for me. And he called her by her name, just like he called me by Father Joe. He said, Marianne, please pray for me. And it was a great moment, as to have a mom there. And at the very end, as he was leaving, I think this was the biggest surprise. He turned to go around. He turned to go out, and then he turned back around. My mom was next to me in the front row, and he pointed her out. He said, "You pray for me." He kept on asking for prayers. He did the same also with Bishop Malesic. He said, "Please pray for me." He says, "Don't pray against me. Pray for me." So this is a pope that maybe is used to conflict and confrontation. He really asked for prayers. We also had it was another mom that came. We had seminarian Sammy Seferati. His mom and dad came, and Sammy's mom has some health issues, so I was able to go up and ask the Holy Father for a special blessing for Gia. And that was also a really touching moment. The guy said, all the guys joined in prayers. The Holy Father extended his hand and placed his hand on her head and prayed for her. So it was a great moment for mothers of seminarians, but also mama priests.
So I heard one of our seminarians also ask Pope Francis for prayers for his grandmother, and then the Pope gave him a special rosary in a white packet, because not only did you all shake hands with him, but you also all received rosaries. We both met John Paul II. Did you ever meet Pope Benedict?
And I shook his hand, but as he was coming by the Pope Mobile.
Yeah, I grabbed his hand once and got pushed away, so I don't count that as an official meeting. But this was your first time meeting Pope Francis.
Yeah, and this kind of came from the guys, too, as they came in not knowing what to expect. There was a real joy. In fact, my message, what I said to him, my thank you, and I think guys all had different messages. I said, Holy Father, thank you for your message of joy to the world and the church. And I was being authentic when I said that. But I had planned to say that because I was thinking of what he has left the church and the joy that's so important, the joy of the gospel. But actually, it was cool because that's what I sensed immediately when he came in. There was a warmth to him and a real joy and a welcoming presence, a big smile. You felt like, we weren't rushed at all. It was a great time where he was really present to us. When he talks about listening and walking together, those are things that he lived certainly in our experience with him. So no, there was a joy, and there's an energy too. I mean, there's an excitement. This is the successor of Peter, and so just that connection with the church, but also with our Holy Father was awesome. It was really awesome.
So, in addition to the stories about your mother and a couple of the other seminarians, one of the stories that's been going around is about Bishop Woost and his two priest brothers. In fact, Father Tom Woost is Mike's supervisor at his diaconate site. Can you tell us how the Pope reacted meeting the Brothers Woost?
So yeah, that was another excitement moment. So after I met the Pope with my mom, I walked back to my seat, but Bishop Woost grabbed me immediately and said, "Could you please stay here? Because my brothers are coming up. I want to know, the Pope knows that we're all brothers." So as soon as Father Dave Woost and Father Tom Woost came up, Bishop Woost joined them immediately. So my only job was to tell the Holy Father, hey, they are brothers, fratelli. Okay. Yeah, they're fratelli, loro fratelli. And to that, he lit up, and of course, I think at that moment, looking at the three, they do look like brothers. So I think it kind of dawned on the Holy Father as soon as I said that, and he looked at them. He's like, and so there's a lot of joy there, too.
He counted, right? He was like, 1,
1, 2, 3. So, yeah.
And then wasn't Father Dave blind behind him, and he said, "Are you their brother too?"
I didn't hear that, but it could have. As Father Tip said, if it didn't happen, it should have. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think Father Woost had said that.
Oh, that's cool.
He said, yeah, Father Blind was in back of us. He said, "Oh, is he your brother too?" But he was like, "Yeah, no, he's not one of us." That's great.
So what do you see maybe now, or what do you hope for as some of the graces from this pilgrimage? Because it truly wasn't vacation.
No,
it's pilgrimage.
No.
You're meeting the Holy Father. The guys I know you had a tour through the Vatican Museum. You had time with Liz Love. You got to enjoy the Italian culture. What are your hopes for the seminary community moving forward because of this?
Yeah, I mean, really, the tangible connection. We can talk and read about the Pope, the gift of the Apostolic Church, the martyrs. We can read about it. It's part of our piety. It's part of our prayer. But to walk the streets of Rome and know these are the same places where these saints walked, to go to the tombs of the saints, and you realize they're not distant figures, they're friends. And I think the encouragement of a lot of us priests with the seminarians were be friends with them. Spend time. Like we did a lot of tours, but we purposely kept a lot of time free in the afternoons or evenings so the guys could go back to the churches and the saints. So, because we were packing in and we saw a lot of great saints. St. Philip Neri. So Neri was one, popular in St. Agnes, St. Ignatius of Loyola, St. Francis Xavier, of course, Peter and Paul, Bartholomew, James, all these saints that we all prayed at their tomb.
Did you go to Santa Cecilia?
I did not, but Father Anderson did.
Yeah.
So, and guys did make the trip, yeah.
I used to pray for my rock stars at the tomb of Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music.
Yeah, no, but it was just for the guys to experience the holiness of that city and also the courage of the martyrs. So to be able to experience that, and there has to be that connection with the Holy Father. That there's our churches, to have that connection after reading about it and knowing it, to actually be in that city, it's a real grace. And it was, I mean, in terms of pilgrimage, it was a lot of early mornings. It was a lot of going to holy places. It was very busy. The other thing too, we did have there was one free day, which is always a blessing, and we had 27 led by Father Mick Joyce and Father John Paul Kuzma, who are their Capuchins here at Borromeo. They led the charge to go to Assisi. So we had 20 of the 70, about 27 or 28 went to Assisi. Just to follow the footsteps of St. Francis and Clare and Blessed Carlo, actually. So, yeah, the guys spent time there. So
that's great, yeah. And then, I think, look, I've done none of these things, right? I've had 4 papal drive-bys. That's it, and all 4 that.
In the United States, or
Toronto with John Paul II.
Okay, for World Youth Day, then. Right?
Sydney with Benedict and Sydney, and then in Philadelphia with Francis and Poland with Francis.
Okay.
And so that's as close as I've got. So you guys are definitely winning the closest to the Pope contest. And so that's great, but I mean, I think it really makes the papacy real for people. You say, well, wait, he's a real person. He's right there in front of us. It's just great,
A real connection, yeah. And St. Peter's is an impressive place, but to see where Peter's buried, to realize the gift the papacy is to the church, and to see the current successor of Peter, it was a real blessing in a way that united our seminary. As a Catholic seminary, which is so important to our faith. So, yeah, it was a blessing. And I know there's a lot of graces just being in the city and making a pilgrimage.
Yeah, sure. What pilgrimage can do for you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so speaking of pilgrimages, we're going to be doing a pilgrimage this Lent here around the diocese. In Lakewood, we're going to do a 4-church pilgrimage. On
April 1st. So some of you may recall that last year we did a 7-church, 7-mile pilgrimage starting at St. John's Cathedral. We went through Tremont and Ohio City and then back downtown. And so we're going to do that again, except we're going to stick to the city of Lakewood. It's a highly populated young adult community. It's at 9:30 at St. Luke's. Right there on Clifton.
And Bunce.
Father Kevin Albert is the pastor there, so we'll begin there. We'll go south down to Transfiguration, the old St. Cyril Methodius. Father Ted's the pastor there. He's a Franciscan. Then we'll shoot over to St. Clement's, and then up to St. James, and then we'll be back to St. Luke. So it's 6 miles. It's going to take, 3 hours, 3.5 hours?
Yeah, we'll be back by 1:15, somewhere around there. I walked it the other day with Max Hall, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's a challenging walk. It's mostly flat. The first little bit of it is a little uphill, but in general it was a pretty easy walk. But it was long. It was 3 hours, 3.5 hours for us to do it. And, we'll give you some lunch at the end of the day at St. Luke's, so it'll be fun. And they're all beautiful churches is the other thing. And
little reflections in each church on the Eucharistic revival theme. So gathered, blessed, broken, and shared. And I'll be taking the shared at St. James. So please come out, tell your friends, especially friends who haven't been to church in a while or maybe have never been into a Catholic church. You don't have to be Catholic or uber Catholic to come on this. We're going on a pilgrimage. We're walking. We're stopping into churches to visit. And we're going to be in an area that is probably a lot of Catholics who may not have been in church for a while. Maybe they can join us too and say, what are you doing? We're just visiting churches and praying. Come on, join us.
It'd be great. That's great. Yeah. And then no sign-ups for this. Just show up at St. Luke.
Maybe bring some water in case your throat gets parched.
We'll have some water for you there too. We're going to go out and buy a bunch of water for folks.
Oh, good.
And throw it in the back of Max's truck.
And if you can't make it and or you don't want to make it, at least pray for good weather that day because although last year it snowed and it rained and we still got 80 people.
It was fine.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then we're going to be doing on Holy Thursday, we've set up station churches as well.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I don't know, Father Joe, if I told you about this. So it's a Roman tradition on Holy Thursday night after the Mass of the Lord's Supper to go visit 7 churches. And so what we've done in Cleveland is we've designated 21 churches in Tremont, Ohio City, Duck Island, Hingetown, Gordon Square, and Lakewood. And all the pastors have agreed to keep their churches open that night until 11 p.m. And we're going to have our Eucharistic Revival prayer that our team has written, both in English, but also in Spanish, in Korean, and Vietnamese, in Latin. We have it in Braille for the Braille community at St. Augustine's. I just talked to Father Arnell today. He's going to put it, Philippine is Tagalog. So that'll be 17 languages we're translating this thing into. But that night, it's just an opportunity to get out, visit 7 churches in the Diocese of Cleveland, and pray it up before our Eucharistic Lord, and be on pilgrimage and be active. It'll be very cool.
The folks in Parma have said that that they looked at it and then they created their own little 7 churches that they're going to do, and they're going to stop and have a young adult do a reflection in front of each church.
Oh, excellent!
So it's great. So kind of taking it on their own. John Veris, who helped us last year with this, decided, well, I have a group of people who just want to do this. So we looked at the churches and said, oh, these are the 7 we'll do.
That's cool. And I was down, because we're in the middle of 9 nights as we're recording this, I was down at Father Matt Pfeiffer's place at St. Paul in Akron the other night, and he said, there are some folks who are ready to do this in Akron. So I thought maybe next year we'll say, here are 14 churches in Akron, and maybe we do it in Lorraine. But you got to start somewhere, right?
Right.
And we're starting this year, and so come out to those station churches on Holy Thursday night, please.
And on April 29th, we're going to have the Ignite Conference, which is going to be the first young adult conference we've had here in a while. And so that'll be at the Marriott downtown. And at the end of the conference, we'll be walking from the Marriott in a Eucharistic procession over to the cathedral, where Bishop Malesic will be there to preside at Mass for us to close out the conference.
Again, invite friends. The people, we can do the podcast, we can do social media things, we could do parish announcements, we could do billboards, and we've done all those. But the best way to invite people is the way Jesus did, personal invitation. Hands down the best way to get people involved in the life of faith. So.
Indeed, yeah. And so take all those things as a personal invitation from us. Father Joe Koopman, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you guys.
Yeah, it was always great to have you, and hopefully you'll have you again sometime.
Sounds good.
All right, and we'll have that and a whole lot more next time here on Question of Faith.